Good morning, Neapolitan fans. Neapolitan gal here. Well, as you can see, I look really tired. I probably just rolled out of bed, which I did. And this little guy is the reason. Now, you can see the commentary that I've typed in there. We're going to expand on that, but first I'm going to tell you what happened. So, Friday afternoon, a friend of mine and I were coming down 951, which is right around the corner from Alligator Alley. And I had the red light getting ready to head to drop her off at her house and for me to go home after work. Someone didn't see who it was, threw this baby out of their car. He might have been maybe 2 months old tops. You could see he was stunned. And me and a couple other motorists, I stopped and started trying to catch him. They thought he was mine, so they helped me try to catch him very fast. But see, I drive two cars. I drive a Kia Soul and I drive a Nissan Rogue. The Kia Soul was what I was in. Oh, excuse me. And he jumped up into the grill of my Soul. And one of the ladies that was there helping me try to catch him said he jumped up into the grill of your Soul. Couldn't see him. He wasn't making any noise. Wasn't hearing anything running around. So after a couple minutes, we're holding up traffic. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go home. If he's up in there, hopefully he'll just get himself out and, go. So everybody gets all back in their own cars. We get up to the light. No one's mad at me. You could tell there was only one or two cars that zoomed past me after the fact, knowing that I was the one that started the backup with the traffic. I think less than 5 minutes we were there. But so went home. The cat's not making any noise. And it was there all night. Car stayed put all night. I had a long road trip yesterday, so usually I'd go out and do karaoke or I'd go out and Uber and Lyft. But because I had a really long trip yesterday from Naples, Florida to Maitland, Florida and back, we left a little after 6:15 and we're back by 8:15 at night. And so after my mom and I got back to her house, I left and drove. It's about 6 miles down to the red light where I heard the meowing. My car had sat at my brother's house all day. She lives at my brother's house on the back side of the property. And the car had sat there all day. And the cat still didn't get out. He sat at my condo all night. He sat at my brother's house all day. And he was still in my car. Had no idea. The thing had not made a sound. I didn't hear him. So we got him. I got up to that red light. Oh, and I hear meow. I'm like, did I just hear that? Meow. So right around the corner from the red light, there is a street. And with a really nice long turn lane. So I pulled in there, put my hazards on, jumped out, meow, and I could hear him. There was an area in the back of the car in front of the spare tire area that he was in. And I think it was basically where the, oh gosh, I think it was the covering for my axles. But I'm just guessing, because I never did find out what was behind the thing. And so I pull up to, I said, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't sit here. I feel like a sitting duck. So there's a gas station just down the street, about 2 blocks up the street. So I hop in the car, go up to the gas station, get out. I've got a wooden shelf in my car that's just wide enough, a little bit wider than my shoulders, and probably, I think it's about 30 inches long. So I got that out and laid it on the ground. I laid on top of it because it had been raining here all day from Tropical Storm Nestor. And laid it on the ground, and I laid on top of it, and I got my flashlight out, and I could hear him. I could not see him, but I could hear where he was. So, I started banging on it with the back of the flashlight, because it's a mag light type flashlight. So banging on the metal there, trying to get the poor thing to run to the front of the car. And after about 5 minutes or so, I said, wait a minute. So I closed up the car to a point where it was safe to leave it for a few minutes. Went into the gas station. I said, do you guys carry cat food? He said, yeah, over there. I went and bought a can of cat food. Now, I will say that I believe the cat was too young for cat food. I believe he was probably still on mama's milk by what happened later. But he didn't move. So I called my husband and I said, I can tell where he is at, but there's no way to get to it. I said, and our private mechanic's name is Mike. Hi, Mike, if you're watching this. I said, you think Mike or Oscar could meet me at at their garage tomorrow? He says, I don't know. He says, I think he's at the races. And I said, he says, I wonder if a cop or a firefighter would be able to get him out. I said, I was sort of thinking that. I said, from where I'm at, I think the closest fire station is in Golden Gate City, which is it's a tiny little, I won't call it a migrant town, but it's a little suburb, tiny little suburb right in the middle of Naples. Naples has several suburbs. That is one of them. And I said, that I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure. So he says, well, I'll meet you there. And I told him where the fire station was. He's not real familiar with Golden Gate City, but I sort of grew up there. So I told him where the fire station was, and looking at the cat scratch on top of my hand, I've got to go treat again. And I said, I'll meet you there. So I pull into the front of the fire station. No one to be found. I'm like, damn. So there's a library next door, because all the entrances that would take you to the fire station and the cop substation are for them only. So, but in that same little block, piece of property is a community center, is a senior center, is a library, and a skate park. They're all on that piece of property. So I pulled over to the senior center parking lot, and my husband pulled up, and he says, well, I just saw someone around here, and he was sort of looking, and so while he was trying to find somebody, I rang a doorbell. Apparently it's a dummy doorbell. No one ever answers it. So I'm like, okay, so whip my phone out, and I get the address for the fire department, found a phone number online for them, and I called them. I said, I got a stupid question. He said, oh, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I said, well, yesterday I was at this intersection. Kitten was in the road, somebody threw him out. Tried to catch him, couldn't catch him. Jumps into my car, and I thought he got out. I said, coming home this evening from my mom's place, he's meowing and still in the chassis of my car. I can tell where he's at, but I can't go. Can you guys try and help me get him out? Oh, yeah, bring him, pull around. And I said, by the yellow Hummer. He said, yeah. So I pulled around there. 3 firefighters come out. At this point, the cat isn't meowing the entire time. So they think that he must have gotten out while I was waiting for them to answer the phone or answer the door. So I pulled back around to where the other car was parked at, to where our other car was parked at in the other parking lot. And just as soon as the car was turned on, meow! So we get the shelf out ourselves, and a towel, and a screwdriver, because we found where he was at. He had moved up to the wheel well in the driver's side up front, and was behind the felt that protects the tire. And so I've got a screwdriver, so I start trying to take the screws out. And I said, my phone's on the seat. I said, why don't you call the firefighters back and tell them we found the cat. But can't quite get to him, and my screwdriver's just inadequate for it. Call them up. The 3 guys come over and help us. Took a little while because he moved from the tire on the driver's side, front tire on the driver's side area. He moved through the chassis, engine compartment area, to the other tire. And so the firemen are like, okay, we hear him over here now, and we can sort of see him bang on something. So I started, doing banging on the car like drums with my fists, and he moved up to an area where they were finally able to get their hands on the precious little thing. Very wild after the 2 days that the poor thing has had, being thrown out of a car, riding around in my car, literally for 2 days, and then all of a sudden you got 5 people trying to catch your butt. So they pull him out, and we're looking at him, and then he goes, and finally he gets loose. It's like, okay, I'm cool with him getting loose. If he gets loose and goes wherever, he goes wherever. As long as he's not in my car, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I'll break apart from the story for a second. I'll tell you why. Because several years ago, in our Nissan Murano that I used to have, I actually ran over roadkill and the highway very, very late at night. Didn't even see it till it was too late. The smell of death never left that car. And the last thing I wanted was for this poor thing to stay up there for too long without water, without food, and also die. Because I love that car. I love my Rogue too. My Rogue is brand new. We've had it a month. It's got 2,200 miles on it. But my soul is mine. It is my car. I love that car. And the last thing I wanted to do was to have another animal smell of death in that car. Especially not this beautiful little cat. So, now I will say that it's also a crying shame where we live at. The rules changed several years back. We moved in, we were allowed to have animals. Our cat passed away. That looked a lot like this cat. He passed away at a ripe old age of 14 in 2011. First part of 2012, the association changed the rules. We do rent our condo. No more tenants with animals. If you have them, you have them. That's what you get. But no new ones enter the property. So, so back to the cat. Cat gets loose from firemen. We have Soul parked here. We have Road parked here. Cat and the firemen are standing right about here in the back of the 2 cars. Cat gets loose, runs up into the Soul. The cat runs up into the back of my Soul. Not back of my Rogue. So we just extracted him from the Soul after 2 days. They're holding him. He gets loose, runs into the back of my Rogue, up underneath. Luckily, the back of the Rogue is a lot more exposed than the back of the Soul is. They were able to find him, grab him, and wrap him in a towel. And the reason he got loose the first time is we were in the process of grabbing a towel, and he just got loose. So these guys were awesome. I actually have some fresh banana bread I made night before last. I'm going to take over and drop off later. Got a few things going on first thing this morning, but last night I was dead tired. Hadn't had any dinner, and we didn't get home till after 11:30. But we asked the guys, is there any place that you know of we might be able to take this poor guy tonight? Because we can't have him where we live. Rules have changed. And they're like, well, Domestic Animal Services and Humane Society. I'm like, yeah, well, we'll try them. Because the cat was, as you can see, he was he was grateful to be in the towel, in my hands. You can see how dirty my hands were for trying to help them catch him inside of my car. And so we started driving. We're not far from Domestic Animal Services or the Humane Society. So we drove to the Humane Society and tried to call them on the way. The call wouldn't go through for some reason, and we got there to a locked gate and no sign of life and no way to call inside from the gate. So then that location isn't that far. It's about 3 miles from Domestic Animal Services, which is a no-kill shelter, which is a better option because everybody knows Humane Society is a kill shelter, despite their name, right? So we call up Domestic Animal Services and get a recording, and they're closed. So on the way, there is a animal hospital not far from domestic animal services that we know is 24/7. We call them, and they're like, no, domestic animal services is the only place we can think of. Now, we had brought him home for the night, but we had nothing to put him in. Absolutely nothing that would have contained that poor little cat. No boxes, nothing like that. Nothing we could have put him in for the night to take care of him. And obviously, on the way there, I had the can of food right next to the poor thing's nose, and he was not interested in that food. Whether he was too little for food yet, or whether he was just exhausted from the 2 days that he had. But anyway, so they said, well, we can't take him for you, but let me give you a phone number for another animal hospital that's open all night. Maybe they can help you out. So I said, okay, hang on, we got to get pulled in someplace. I said, my hands are full holding him. I said, so we got stopped. My husband found a piece of paper and a pen, and he wrote down the name and number of the other animal hospital that we dropped him off at. And we get to that animal hospital. I'm actually looking up I was too tired to even notice the name of the hospital, honestly. Okay, so we dropped him off at Emergency Pet Hospital of Collier County. We called them up, and a lady named Kara answered the phone, explained to her the ordeal this poor thing has been through over the last 2 days, and that we were finally able to get him pulled out of the car. And she says, yeah, we can definitely help you out. We'll take him. We just have you sign some paperwork giving us custody of the kitty. And so we get over there. He's wrapped up. The lady is behind the desk. She's probably Kara. And we explain the story to her. She has us fill out just a single sheet of paper saying that he wasn't ours, that we found him, that, this is basically what happened. And so she grabs him by the scruff while I've got him still in that towel and pulls him out, and he's just all four paws are like this. He's ready to fight. He's definitely a boy. We hadn't even noticed whether he was boy or girl because he was so wild after the ordeal the poor thing had been through. And I think I would call and check on him in a little while and see how he's doing. And it's, and the whole point of this whole story is not that I rescued a cat last night. It's not that the firemen rescued a cat last night. The whole point of the whole story is there are, and let me tell you that this happened, this all started at 6? Yeah, right around 6 p.m. Friday night. So the shelters are still open. Let me repeat myself. The shelters were still open. Yes. Friday night when this began, the shelters were still open. Domestic Animal Services, Humane Society, Naples Cat Alliance, all shelters at that point were still open for the night. We're still open for the day. There is no reason for anybody, let me say that again, there is never a reason to throw away an animal in the middle of a busy street just because you don't want them anymore. There are plenty of people who will take the cat. Plenty of places you can drop the cat off to. Look on Facebook groups. Pick up the phone. Call Humane Society. Call Domestic Animal Services. Call Brooks Legacy. Call any animal shelter that you can find. If you don't know the name of an animal shelter, look online. They are there. They will take the cat. They will take the dog. All you got to say it was a stray. If you don't have anything proving it's yours. If the animal is not chipped, if you legitimately find an animal on the road, take it to any animal shelter, any all-night animal hospital that will scan the chip. But if this animal is yours and you're wanting to get rid of it, throwing it out in the middle of a busy intersection at rush hour is not the way to do it. I don't know who has a heart that cruel that they think that that was going to be the best thing for this kitten. Yes, he was quick. 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 pound vehicles are quicker, unfortunately. And this thing, if he had not run up inside of my car, would have probably been flattened right there at the intersection. And that pisses me off. There is never a reason. There are enough animal shelters around. There are enough caring people on Facebook that you can hop on Facebook anywhere and say, hey, I've got a cat that I can't keep. A young kitten. Would anybody take it? You would have a dozen hands up in minutes in any of these groups that would have said, I'll take it. There is absolutely no reason to drop an animal in the middle of a busy intersection. And there's no reason to take an animal to the middle of nowhere, like a lot of people do, and drop them off. There is no reason to torture, to kill on purpose any animal that you don't want because you can't care for it, or because it's not conforming to what you want an animal to be. Guess what? They've got personalities just like you and I do. There's never a reason to take this poor thing right here and drop him in the middle of one of the busiest intersections in the area, because that is where people coming from East Naples, from Marco Island, from in town are heading home through that intersection. That is right there at I-75, heading onto Alligator Alley and coming off of Alligator Alley. It is the intersection that's right there before the highway. And you know what? There was no reason for whoever decided to drop this animal out to do so. If you have an animal that you don't want, if you have an animal that you can no longer keep, there are other things you can do. Drop them off as a stray if they don't have a chip on them. This poor thing, I don't know if he was still a mother's milk or if he was just traumatized. He wouldn't even eat because of everything that this person put him through. And then the poor guy rode around in my car for 26 hours. And I am just grateful, absolutely grateful, that on that long road trip to Maitland from Naples, across the back roads, all the way up, 29, 27, 50, and 441, that my mom and I didn't take my soul. I don't know that the poor guy would have lasted. He probably would have died under there. Luckily, my car was parked the majority of the time that he was in there. And luckily, I have a mama's ear when it comes for babies and it comes for cats and dogs. I heard him meow through all the traffic that was around me when I heard that poor cat meow. I heard him meow. He's got a loud meower too. He's got a very loud meow. For anybody watching this, whoever thinks that abandonment in a roadway, abandonment in the woods, abandonment someplace other than a shelter is the way to go, screw you. Let's say that again. Screw you. This baby didn't deserve that. My whole body hurts from rescuing this cat from my car. I started rescuing this cat when I first saw him. I was on hands and knees, laying in the roadway, trying to catch this cat so he would not be killed. My arms hurt. My chest hurts from laying on the hot asphalt. I'm not burned, but I did wind up with a scratch right on my middle finger. One for you, whoever threw that cat out. See that scratch? I've actually got to go dress it so it doesn't get any angry on me. But yeah. So there's never a reason to throw an animal out. There's never a reason to drop them off in the middle of nowhere. There are shelters everywhere. You know, and do you know why there are shelters everywhere? Oh, I do. Because apartment complexes, oh, my hand hurts. Because apartment complexes and condo developments and landlords in general are no longer allowing pets in their properties, or are charging such high amounts of money for you to keep these pets that people can't have them. The cost of pet care is through the roof. It costs as much to take an animal, if not more, because most people don't have pet insurance. But it costs, you know, so much for vetting that it's incredible. And you know, those are all the reasons. Pet food isn't that expensive. Pet food's easy. The cost of the pet care, the cost of what, you know, apartment complexes and stuff want for you to bring on property. You know, sometimes that's not so bad. But when these places start saying no animals, no more animals, you can't have animals anymore, or when it's time for you to move, the animals that you've had for years, or brand new animals like this guy, because like I said, he was less than 2 months old. He was so little. That you're moved from one place to another and you can't take them. There are shelters. Look them up. Research them. Don't be that asswipe that decides it's time to send, you know, to let nature take its course. No. No. But that's today's video, guys. I'm sorry for the huge rant, but it really had to be said. I mean, I spent 26 hours trying to rescue this baby, and we finally rescued him and took him to an animal hospital for the night so that he could be checked over and handed off to domestic animal services, which is a no-kill shelter in our area. So if you're watching this from Naples, go ask for Kia. He's a beautiful cat, and I really wish we could have taken him in, but we couldn't take him in. We just had nothing for him, and our condo development was very spiteful. So I'll see y'all later.